Well, say welcome to Professor Georg Hajdu, live here in Mozarteum. uh, Professor Georg Hajdu was born 1960 after studies in Columbia and the Center for New Music and Audio Technologies in Berkeley. He promoted at the University of California, Berkeley. Together with pianist Jennifer Heimer, he founded the Ensemble Wireworks, specialized on performances of live electronic music. Georg Hajdu's is interested in research of multimedia, microtonality, algorithm composition, real-time interaction, and music networks. Since 2002, he is professor for multimedia composition at the University of Music and Theater or Dramatic in Hamburg, Germany. As founding director of the Digital Center in Hamburg, Hajdu continues to champion interdisciplinary research and innovation. His works, performed worldwide, combine acoustic and electronic elements with precision, imagination, and a distinct microtonal language, solidifying his reputation as a visionary in contemporary music and multimedia composition. Professor Hajdu, I think we'll start now, and the others, I hope, will come. Welcome to Salzburg.
Yeah, thank you. I wish I could be there myself. Thank you for having me, Johannes Kotschi. We already know each other from way back in the 1980s, where we had the pleasure to meet at one of the summer courses in Darmstadt. Maybe I could share my screen. I think that would make sense. So I'd love to quickly go over two things. One would be my personal website, which contains some information about my pieces and generally my work that I've done in various areas. I also consider myself not just a composer, but also a theoretician or theorist, and also a software designer. This is something that I cannot separate. They all go hand in hand. My compositional output often is facilitated by creating software and vice versa. There's often some sort of a theoretical underpinning that informs both my software and the compositions. One of my major influences, besides George Ligeti, was the Indian-born computer composer Clarence Barlow, who was also very interested in microtonal music, also from his Indian background, but not just from that. He also was a student of Karl-Heinz Stockhausen's in Cologne, and he was very much interested in formalizing scales and developing a method to calculate hierarchies within tonal systems and tunings. Just to show you very quickly which of my pieces are actually microtonal. My very first microtonal music was written in the late 1980s. This was a piece called heptadecatonic drops for in 17-tone equal temperament. I then went on writing two cartoons and Klangmorasta also for 17-tone equal temperament. Later, I wrote a large-scale opera in which I featured the 17-tone equal temperament, 19-tone equal temperament, and also the Bull and Pierce scale, which I had discovered sometime in the late 1980s, but had first been using the in 1994 for this opera, and that also instigated the development of a new type of clarinet that was built for the Bowl & Pierce scale, called the Bowl & Pierce clarinet, obviously. And there are 4 different sizes by now. 3 of them I have commissioned from Stephen Fox in Toronto, and these instruments have been used for various projects. Regarding guitar, is a piece, if you wish, in 17 limit just intonation for the guitar. Then Exit is a piece for 19-tone equal temperament. Actually, it's just intonation, but with a 19-tone grid. Then we have other pieces like, let me see, Gesture is an interactive piece for Bowl & Pierce alto kalimba and live electronics. And then I have a bunch of other pieces. For instance, Burning Petrol is a transcription of a piece by Alexander Scriabin into the Bowl & Pierce scale for a larger ensemble. So the Bowl & Pierce scale became somewhat of a constant in my work, and you will also see that materialized in my software, where the Bowl & Pierce scale plays a special role, or like an outstanding role. Then other pieces in the Bowl & Pierce tuning is, for instance, this piece, the Solaris in 3 movements, that was part of a larger multimedia theater piece, where we had an 8-voice choir and an ensemble of 11 instruments. Manfred Starke was actually part of the premiere of the piece, and it was a lot of fun to work with him. And lately, I wrote a piece for 35 voice choir in Oregon, where I use pitch in a very free way. By controlling the airflow, I was able to introduce pitch fluctuation, but it doesn't stick to any say tuning system. It's more about deviating from just equal temperament, 12 EDO. Okay, so that said, I also want to quickly point out the Ligeti Center as a very interesting place for research in between, I would say, music/theater, science and technology. We also have a residency program there. So visit us if you want to know more about our offerings. It's a center very much geared towards knowledge translation. And the next large thing that you may be interested in is the International Computer Music Conference, something that we'll organize between May 10, May 17, 2026 in Hamburg. So look out for the call, which we will publicize in September, and you're more than welcome to attend the conference. And I'm sure that there will be also topics that pertain to questions on microtonality. Okay, that said, I want to now turn my attention to MaxScore. And I have prepared something here. Well, the first question is maybe, why do we need another notation program? So why do we need a program that's capable of notating music? Don't we have enough? I mean, Dorico seems great, and we have MuseScore, which is free. And then when you work within Max, then you probably have already heard of the Bach objects that are just an amazing package for computer-aided composition, which also support microtonal playback. So why do you need yet another notation environment? Well, the answer is, first of all, notation, I think, is a very personal thing. You may want to use Dorico or any other of these. I mean, Finale is gone now; it's defunct. But you can also use Sibelius and you name it, MuseScore. And if you're brave, you can use the Lilliput. But the thing is, none of these big clunkers, if I may call them that way, have the advantage of being embedded in a multimedia authoring environment. Max is an environment that's been around since 1990 as a commercial product, and I would say I'm a user from the first minute. And I learned to love working with Max, and I was always fascinated with the possibility of creating complicated, really complex programs by simply connecting objects and building more complex objects by embedding other objects. And so this idea of hierarchically creating worlds of for that enable you to put your thoughts about music into action, into practical action, is something that it was always very fulfilling. And so I probably that was around 1994 when I started building or composing my opera. This is when I already started thinking about how to connect this environment Max to a notation engine that would enable me to write my opera. It was my opera was based on a spectral analysis of a sentence that was spoken by the librettist. So the idea was, basically what I needed was a bunch of tools that would enable me to write this opera that would translate from the spectral analysis into music notation, that would enable me to apply grids, bend pitches to certain scale tones, like, for instance, taking a spectral content and bending the pitches to the Bohlen-Pierce scale or the 19-tone scale, or making transitions. So this was something that I was interested in from early on. And then later, after my opera premiered in the late 1990s, I turned my attention to network music performance. Actually, in 2002, Manfred Stanke and we did another opera called Orpheus Kristall, which also used microtones and musicians in 4 different locations besides the main opera hall or the main concert hall. They were improvising, but they were improvising in scales that the system was setting for them. So they could improvise in 53-tone equal temperament, but in any other scale. And so that was something that you could select in the interface. And once again, notation played a very important role because at the time there was no audio or video streaming, or if there were, it was like with a huge delay and with very, very low quality. So in order to recreate what people were doing in one location, we had to basically send control messages. And these control messages could then, of course, be reinterpreted. So filtering, mapping data from one range to another is something that is it's also prevalent in MaxScore. And I will also talk about that a little, particularly when comparing MaxScore to other solutions that were made for Max. At this point, I just want to quickly ask you whether you can easily understand what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you can follow me.
Yes.
And I would also like to invite you to interrupt me anytime if you need clarification. If something is not 100% clear, please interrupt and I will go over that again. Okay, so basically what MaxScore is built on is an engine developed by Nick Ditkovsky. Yes, he's a jazz guitarist, also metal guitarist from New York, who in the mid 2000s, so it's about 20 years ago, came up with an idea of integrating his Java-based notation solution into Max. And so that's when I got in touch with him, and I suggested that he write an object called MaxScore, which had certain capabilities. And I have, over the years, always suggested new features to him and built a periphery around his Java-based solution. So this is how this whole thing came all about. And so I've been using this his object and the environments for the past, I would say 16, 17 years. And it's become a very large environment which now enables not just microtonal notation, but also graphical notation, proportional notation, and a hybrid between proportional and measured notation, which we have also used in various performances. One of the strengths, as I mentioned before, and I'm going to switch to Max to demonstrate that, is the fact that everything is modular. So here are some of the main modules that I'm going to go over. And so what we're seeing is the core of the application. That's an object here called MaxScore. What else? But MaxScore itself is an abstraction which contains the Java-based solution here, the object provided by Nick Ditkovsky. And you see that there's a lot around that. That's what I refer to as the periphery. And also the functionality in Max, particularly graphic notation, is enabled by, basically by its periphery. There's also one more thing, which is that MaxScore itself, that is the Java object here, has no concept of microtonality. What it has a concept of decimal MIDI keynotes. So in other words, it is capable of reproducing pitch at a higher resolution than most MIDI players can. You all know, of course, MIDI, and you know the key numbers, and you know the middle C is 60 and C sharp is 61 and so forth. And then there's this concept of pitch bending. And so that's what made MIDI always totally impractical when it came to microtonality. And I'm not sure whether the new edition, which was introduced in the context of the Rolly C board, whether it really made much of a difference in terms of how we conceptualize MIDI, but at least it enables us now to have individual pitch and have a pitch band associated with every single MIDI event. But in MaxScore, it's a different story. MaxScore uses floating point keynotes and therefore can represent any pitch with unlimited precision. And so one very simple example would be the following thing. What I'm going to do is I need to connect MaxScore, the MaxScore object, to a display. And this display is called the B canvas. So I need these patch cords, which I'm just about to create, in order to establish communication between the core object and the score display. And so one thing that I can do here is I can create a new score. And this new score, I need to give the number of staves and the dimensions of the score. So this is a message that I send to the core object in order to create music notation, or that to initialize, maybe that's a better way to put it, to initialize music notation. So the next thing that I want to do is to demonstrate how we can create floating point MIDI data. And so for that, we're going to send a command called add note. And add note takes various attributes, arguments. One would be the length of the note, the duration of it. The second one would be its pitch, and I'm going to set the pitch to 60. That's the MIDI key number. 0.34, which is about a sixth of a tone higher than middle C. And yeah, does anyone have a question?
Georg, could you make it larger?
Of course.
Much larger, even more. Yes.
Yeah, that's really best.
Okay. Okay, great. Sorry about that. You probably have to sit in a room to really realize how large it has to be. Yeah, so once again, we create a message called add note. We indicate the duration of the note. In this case, 1 refers to a quarter note, 2 would be a half note, and 0.5 an eighth note. Pitch is given as a floating point number here, so we can apply microtonal deviation just simply by using decimal numbers. And here the next one would be just typically velocity. That's the same as with MIDI, and MaxScore also has a very clever addition. You can set the sounding duration of a note to something else than 1. You can, for instance, if you want to notate a quarter note, but you will actually want this only to be played for a third of the time, or for the third of its duration, then you would indicate 0.3 and you would have something like a staccato. So let's do this. And here we have created our first microtone, right? So now we have to understand that MaxScore applies a grid to all the microtones here. And the default grid is a quarter tone grid. So it looks for the nearest quarter tone. In this case, it would be a C quarter tone sharp. The same would happen if I did the enharmonic inversion of this, or look for enharmonic equivalence, then I would get a D 3/4 flat as the equivalent. I will show you soon a method that will enable us to apply other grids, but that doesn't change the pitch of the note, because the pitch is given by the floating point number. This is just for representation, so we have to keep that in mind. So now we have created a very simple patch using 2 components, the MaxScore core object and the B canvas, which we connected. We can also use a variant of this, which has these two objects already built in, which also has the advantage that you can make copies of that and copy this score to a different location, and it will store its content. If I could make a copy of what I just did here on the left side, and I copy that to a different patcher, that's the area that I built my patches in. It's called a patcher. If I copy that to a different patcher, what I just made would be lost. But if I did this here, I copy these messages, create a new score, copy the whole score to a new patcher. You should have actually seen that note. Wonder why that didn't happen. Okay, maybe there's something that let's give it a try. Otherwise, I will have to do some troubleshooting to see why it's not doing what it's supposed to do. Here it is. Here we go. Okay. Then the next thing that we want to do is I want to show you the other components that are essential. And one of the components is the editor. The editor is really what enables a lot more complicated things than just adding new notes by sending messages. The MaxScore editor is actually a full-blown music editor. And so you see, it is almost like Sibelius or Dorico or MuseScore, for that matter, in Max. So you have a palette of things that you can use to create notes. You can change a lot of things. You can also do some wacky things like something like a 713 meter. If you're into that, that's possible. You can have control over how long the measures are, whether you can show all these elements or not. You can create graphic notation by drawing and moving these graphics. You can insert images. You can also have a Bezier curve tool. You can add text anywhere, and you can even add control elements to each of these graphic symbols. That's why we can even turn the interface into some sort of a graphical notation engine by simply removing all the music notation parts and just purely use this as a graphic tool. But remember, it's still a music notation program. So everything you do in the graphical domain still has musical meaning in terms of it has a temporal meaning in the score. But that's something that I can explain maybe at some later point. That would lead too far if I went over all the graphical capabilities. If you're really interested in exploring that, please get in touch with me later on, and I will give you some pointers. By the way, pointers, there are a bunch of pointers. So there are some help files. So if you go here to in Max, if you go here to the extras menu, you will see that there's an entry called MaxScore, and there's a dictionary, for instance, for all the messages that you can send the core object, and the editor, which actually responds to the same messages, and even has some special messages, but not only a few of them. And so here we have really a lot of different messages that the MaxScore object responds to. And so this enables us to be very specific about what we want to achieve. Here are some messages that pertain to graphic notation. They're not quite as many. That's probably because graphic notation is something that's way more simple than actual standard and microtonal music notation. Now I think I should have a look at my need to get this dock out of the way because it's always like floating over my screen and I can't see what's behind. And so I'm gonna go to my document, which I prepared. Yeah, right. So I'm going to also show you. So there's help files for each of these objects, which you can, if you know the Max, then you also know how to access the help files. You just basically have to option click on an object, and and then the help file will pop up with all the explanations. Yeah. Then there's a reference here which you can access in the help menu. So you can go here to reference, and then you can click on this stack symbol and find MaxScore with all the tutorial patches that we have created. So here's a chapter about how to install MaxScore, then some information about the editor and some other components that might be useful when you're if you ever embark on learning the environment. Should you ever embark on learning the environment? Okay, so then let me close that and have another look at my documents here. There's also online information, including YouTube tutorials, particularly about the use of MaxScore in Ableton Live, which is something that I will go over as well. And then there's a bunch of papers which I wrote over the years, which may be of interest. I'm going to show you something that a recent article which I presented at the Tenor Conference. That's a conference dedicated to music notation and representation last year in Zurich. And so this would have been the paper here. It's called Digester Revisited, and it has some interesting aspects about artificial intelligence and music notation, and also in the area of microtonal notation. I will go over that. For instance, here we see a page that shows the so-called Müller-Hajdu notation, which was developed in the context of the Bohlen-Pierce scale. You see 6 lines and different clefs here. That's also something that I will explain a little later. So anything else about music notation? Not necessarily. And there are some other papers that are useful when you want to learn MaxScore. Okay. I think I already went over these 2 points, these 2 bullet points. So I will now turn my attention to playback devices. So most of you have some sort of a setup at home, that enables you to maybe test or preview the music you have been composing, and most of these devices, of course, are perfectly fine, and they do the things that you want them to do. In our case, we decided to add another device. I'm going to have to reduce my screen size a little to show the entire object. This is one of the more complex devices called the MaxScore sampler. And this sampler can load instruments that you can create yourself. Basically, you're free to create your own instruments with your own sounds. We also have sample banks, and I will show you very quick where you can get them, that you can load to create orchestras that you can then use for microtonal playback. So let me quickly show you how you would reproduce the sound here. And for this, you need yet another object that goes between the MaxScore object and the the sampler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an object called MaxScore.makeNote, and that receives its input from the third outlet of MaxScore, or directly from the first output of the editor. So we can also experiment with that a little later. And so what we can do is we can connect that to the sampler, and the sampler itself needs to talk to the DAC, as we call it, the digital audio converter, basically the speakers. That's why we use an object called mc.ezDAC. And what you get here is a 32 voice microtonal sampler. And we're using a technology where all 32 voices will be run through one patch cable. As you can see here, it even says 32. It can always detect the number of audio channels that this patch cord, as it is called, is enabled for. So the audio is already on. All we need is to load a bank to enable playback. So for this, I will go here to bank, click on bank. I will click on open, and I will load the bank that's a part of the MaxScore release. And then we'll show you in a second how to get additional sound files. So here we find in XII packages. That's after we successfully installed the MaxScore after downloading it from a particular website. Maybe I should show you that before I proceed, because that's also important to know where to get MaxScore. And the website is called computermusicnotation.com. Here are some examples. And so what you can do is to download the version for your operating system, and you can download it for either Mac or Windows. And if you're still using Max 8, then there's an older version which I discourage you to use, as it doesn't contain all the new bug fixes and new features. There's also a Discord server which you can subscribe to if you want to communicate with me over the issues you're discovering, or you can also get some advice from other people that are members of the Discord server. Okay, so you download the software, install that. There's an installer that puts all the resources in the right location, and then you'd be ready to go. Yeah, so let's open the bank file. So it's like in Max Packages, MaxScore, and here we find in a folder called Media, which then contains 2 bank files. But what we are interested in is this one here, bells. So here we have two instruments in the bell bank, or bells bank. One is a little more reverberant than the other. We can try them out. We can try both of them. You can set the instrument here on the left, but you can also make adjustments to these instruments and to the samples that they contain on the right side of the MaxScore sampler. and you can also look at the waveforms, set envelopes, and then control the behavior of the sounds of the samples when playing back. Okay, let me go back. You can easily create complex banks with a lot more instruments than that. But, you know, just let's play this note here. You heard that? A very reverberant bell. And I can just simply now add another voice. I can do this interactively. I don't need to send an add note message for that. I can just simply control click inside the score, and that will also add a new note. And I will set this to the second bell. And so this will sound like that. And if we want to hear these two notes together, we can play them. Well, for this, I'll just send the message. It's not play, it's start. So we're going to start our playback, and then we can also stop it. But what about making these notes a little longer? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use shortcuts. I'm going to press the D to double the duration, and I'm going to play this sound, which is going to be a nice little dissonance. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Wonderful. All right, then. Now let me quickly give you a pointer where you can find much more sounds than just the ones that are built in or part of the release. There is a library called the VSCO library, which contains really literally 3 gigabytes of sounds that in a format called XII, or you've probably seen this. This is like a SFZ sound banks with the SFC extension. And so SFZ was developed as a format, some sort of a universal or an exchange format between different sampler types. And so what we can do here is we can also open SFC or SFIZ sample banks and import them into MaxScore. And that is very useful because this enables us to tap into a large library of different sounds. I'm quickly going to search for VSCO. And so you see here are really literally dozens of different instruments that could be loaded, and you can continuously load more instruments until you have the ensemble that you need for playback. And then there's even a larger, and this way, I'm sorry, maybe I should also mention where you would get that. The set of instruments you would find online on GitHub. We have recently created a fork, a GitHub fork, for which we have normalized all these sounds so that they can play at equal loudness in MaxScore in the sampler. So the location for that would be I can copy the link. That is, I'll put it in an email and I will send it to you guys later in case you're interested in checking this out. And then there's another large repository which is based on samples that Thomas Hummel made for his contemporary library, a large library of literally 50,000, more than 50,000 different sounds of a lot of extended techniques, and we're using a subset, an earlier version of contemporary called the virtual orchestra, and so which we have also adapted to the MaxScore sampler. So here we have another location on the internet, which will add more sounds, in case you're interested in using instrumental sounds for playback. So you can see that here. And so here we have a lot of different sample banks that might complement the sample banks that are given by the VSCO orchestra. Okay, so that's about sample playback. Any questions so far?
Any questions about that?
No. It's hard to hear what you're saying because of noise suppression.
There are no questions.
Maybe if you want to ask a question or make a statement, you probably want to come closer to the microphone that's the microphone that's in the computer itself.
Computer. Not anybody? No.
Okay. Then I'll just continue.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is how the playback functions. And let me just go back to my document so I don't lose track. There's also another playback device, which is much simpler. This will enable this is just a sound font playback device called Fluid Synth, which has banks built in. And you can see here, it's the typical kind of general MIDI setup. These sounds are not particularly good. I would say stay away from them, but they could be used for quick preview. So if I really want to, if I don't want to bother, loading, banks into a sampler, I just want to quickly hear what comes out of my score, then I can do this here, and I will play. I'm going to set this instrument to celesta and this one to vibraphone, and I will play the first measure, and you can hear also the playback of this is also microtonal, so with cent precision.
Yeah, I have a special wish. Could you use a tiny glissando down so that we start with this beating and then go to a constant pitch on C, on normal C?
Yeah, we can do that, and I will show you in the context of Ableton Live how that's being accomplished. But yeah, the answer is yes, you can do that.
Yeah. It would be nice to hear. Yeah.
In this case, you would use something called a pitch bend. Let me even demonstrate that very quick. I think I should be able to do that very easily, simply by doing something like this. And I'm going to play.
And a little louder.
Right. Let me just stop here and rewind. I think I should. It's probably best if I show you this to you in the context of Ableton Live, because example is really much more striking. Why don't I see when I was planning to talk about Ableton Live? Okay, because it's not. I mean, we're not quite there yet. So this is this is actually during the second half of my presentation. But I will promise I will show it to you.
Thank you.
How to do that? Okay. All right. Now, the next thing, and this pertains to the editor here, is, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. And it's also not the ideal timbre to show the effect. Let me quickly open the editor, enable music notation again, and I'm going to remove this and maybe create a new score altogether. And I will show you the entry tools, because how do I enter microtonal notation? How do I enter microtonal pitch? And there are several entry tools that I can use for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to pitch utility. Pitch utility has it contains a bunch of different, the pitch utilities. It contains a bunch of tools that are quite useful for microtonal notation, particularly the entry tools here. And there are a bunch of entry tools, and I want to first show you the NTET entry tool, which enables the entry of equal tempered scales. So if I, for instance, wanted to work with the Bowen-Pierce scale, I would set the frame to 1902 and divide that into 13 steps and anchor this whole thing on the D below middle C with a deviation of 2 cents because of the just 12. That's the frame of the Bowen-Pierce scale. And so this is, now I could just simply click on each of these notes. And sorry about that. We'll have, that's demonstration effect. So I'm using a beta version of Max currently, and sometimes we're dealing with unexpected things, but we'll just try again. That usually shouldn't happen when you work with that. So, okay. Here we go. This is we're back on track, and we're going to create a new score and open the pitch utility again. So TET entry tool, NTET. I'll just retype everything with and use this to enter notes. As you can see here, we're now entering notes in the Bowen-Pierce scale with the right pitches. This, you need me to make this a little larger, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is now I'm going to use the built-in zoom here and show you the pitches here.
Thank you.
So these are the pitches of the Bowen-Pierce scale. I can also play that back. I'm going to connect to the sampler. The sampler needs the bank file again. There we go. We need to turn audio on. Let me make sure that we have the right device. And now we should be able to hear the scale with the bell sounds. So the step. So this is the Bullen-Pierce scale. And now I show you the other entry tools. So this would be the entry tool for equal temperaments. There's also a just version for the scale. Let me quickly load the Scala browser. Which contains all the scales of the Scala archive in a large database. So these aren't like the separate files that you know from the Scala database. If you've already worked with that, you have to download the entire archive, and these are literally nearly 5,000 different scales that are separate files. The database that we're using has all the scales in the database. And so that's why the database is searchable. So I can, for instance, now do the following. I can search for the name Stanke in the comment section, comments. And so I know that Manfred has also contribution. And his contribution is a scale called CET 97, which is visible here. So I could just simply start composing with this scale by on these tones here. And now I can continue. So here we have the entire scale, and of course I could now even go up by the octave frame or by any frame that you specify. So this is would be next this one here, and this would enable you to enter all the notes. This is very, very useful and very, very handy. You can even go ahead and create your own entry tools, like from scratch. For instance, when I was that was about 10 years ago, I wanted to transcribe Easley Blackwood's, one of the etudes that Easley Blackwood wrote. You're probably familiar with that. He wrote 12 etudes which study equal temperaments with 13 to 24 divisions of the octave. And I'm not a fan of all of them. Some of them sound very awfully traditional to me and conventional, but there's one that I absolutely love, which is the one that uses the 23-tone equal temperament. And so at the time I wanted, this was like a proof of concept when I started working on microtonality in MaxScore. I wanted to have a tool that would enable me to enter his music into a MaxScore document. And so what I did is I had my daughter, she was 14 at the time, and needed a bit of money. So I said to her, can't you, now I just have to look for, I think it's here in music notation. No, it's here in Blackwood's etudes. If I go here, this is someone on the internet just gave me these scores, and so I was very grateful. I created a PDF from these single pages and asked my daughter to transcribe that. So let me see. It's not opening. Or it's somewhere where I don't expect it. Here. There it is. So this is the top part you're seeing here, and this is the notation of the piece. So the task was to put this notation in MaxScore and use the set of accidentals that was used in these etudes, which differ from the ones that we use in MaxScore. Hi, Grim. I will introduce you a little later. We're running a bit behind. We started also a little later, about half an hour, but you're connecting at the right moment because I'm talking about entry tools. So it would be a nice opportunity to also present Quartz Nest in a minute. I'm currently talking about Easley Blackwood's study called 23 Notes. And so basically what I did was I copied the top part of the score into a Max patch and made these notes interactive so that my daughter could then enter the music and also with octave transpositions into Max score and made it playable. So I will play that in a minute when we turn our attention also to Ableton Live. But I think this would be a wonderful opportunity for Gerim to present yet another entry device that she created, or an entry tool that she created together with another doctoral student from the Hamburg University of Music and Theater. And so I think it's time for us to demo that. And this tool is called the Quartz Nest Multiphonics Editor. So that's a very complex editor. And maybe Agrim, if you wish, you can now share your screen and tell the participants a little more about the editor, how you came up with the name, and what it actually does. Can you do the demonstration from your computer?
Perhaps if I make her a co-host or something like that. Hang on a second.
Again, your microphone is muted.
Yeah, I know. I muted myself so I don't destroy your connection. I had some problems with my update, and if you don't mind, can we stick to your Max score and I can talk, or you would love to prefer?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We can do that. And for this, I can. Yeah. Why don't you start talking a little bit about the environment? Yeah.
So, hello everyone. I'm Aigerim Silova. I'm a doctoral student for artistic research at Hochschule für Musik und Theater, Hamburg, also a composer, and focusing on artistic research with multimedia opera and different aspects of it. And with James Tse Chong Him, we started a collaboration on a tool in MaxScore environment, and called Quartz Nest, as you see here, and that this tool is for to how I can say the prehistory of it. So as I don't know who we have here. Is it like mostly composers or
people interested in microtonal music?
In microtonal music, yeah. But I mean, these entry tools are very important for the notation. And since everyone is more, at least common with a mainstream, let's call software notation systems, such as Dorico, Finale, Sibelius, Lilliput, which Lilliput is something different, of course. You can customize it more. And of course, MaxScore. So we were thinking about starting some tool for entering user-friendly like situation multiphonics. So since it was a test phase and everything, as we started collaboration with a clarinetist, Heather Roche. She also graduated in Köln, I think, and she's a brilliant clarinetist. And in some press, she has She has been reviewed with epithets like Queen of the Multiphonic. So I thought it would be a right person for us to start a collaboration with. And that's how the project started. James and me, we developed the design of this entry tool. And I'm sorry, just it's for the beginning, it's just two instruments presented, bass clarinet and clarinet. And for clarinet, we recorded 136 multiphonics, and for bass clarinet, 130. So here is what you see right now in this. Georg, I would need your assistance. This is a palette when you can get it from the entry tools, and here you see the some selection phase. So it's planned to extend it with other different instruments, also for instance for cello, because in cello you also can do some multiphonics. But of course the woodwind instruments are the most obvious one, and so we started with a clarinet. So here we have a choice of two instruments, clarinet and bass clarinet. So you would go there, and by clicking to, let's say, bass B clarinet, you go further with a possibility to search the sound. So it means like a pitch or the finger diagrams. So there's two variants, because the idea behind it is that not only the composers or someone who is creating the score will be able to do the entries, but also the clarinetist or whatever instrument it is. So here, as we use the Bremantle key fingering diagrams. I mean, it's based on it, but James developed it so it's like generated as an SVG on a fly. So if you are playing and you know something particular, you would click as a now and then. But you really have to know what I mean. If you would just deselect everything, there is a bin icon. If you deselect it, and I think that would to bring to some results. Georg, if you would go to the and probably first like basic ones, the big round ones, then it will see how many results there are. So, but the most interesting probably also to be, without knowing the diagrams, you would go to the entry tools, and there you see there are some categories. So shortly about it, so it's very obvious that you would like to have an option to search something with a pitch. So we are not in a microtonal system here yet, because we wanted to see if the code will be working. And yeah, you can click here as well for the information. It just says go back, please. So going back to the pitch, there is a 24, the classical, the well-temperated pitch systems, nothing unusual. So you would say, I would need a multiphonic containing pitch C. And then you would click it, and it says here on the result, there would be 41 multiphonics with a C pitch in it in different octaves. So another category you could choose from is dynamics, because as you know, the multiphonics are very sensitive for the for the volume they can be produced in. Some are possible to play on very low dynamics, and some are only functioning with a very loud dynamic. So we simplified it to the three most basics, and it's like from pianissimo to piano, and the fortissimo, the middle ones from mezzo forte, mezzo piano, and the very loud ones. So here you see by clicking to the fortissimo, so like loudest possible, that reduced our results by the 16. We had 41 before. And also what is important is for the performance, of course, a little bit lyrical context. There are multiple books and collections of multiphonics for clarinet. There are lots of research made on this, and there are also books categorizing and notating, bringing up the diagrams, and also containing some CD attachments before, and or on the websites. But what we were trying to follow is also to be playable, because there's classical situation when a young composer or a not young composer writes a score and adds some multiphonic which he finds from the book, he has a perfect fingering. He has imagined the result. He has also a track, which is possible to how it's going to be sounding like. But then when it comes to the rehearsal process, the clarinetist say, "I'm sorry, and I cannot play it on my Buffon clarinet because I'm using the German." I mean, anyways, or it's like it's in this context, it's impossible. So what we were following by the selection of the whole database of the multiphonics, and of course it's a big gratitude on collaborating clarinetist Heather Roche. It is from the performing perspective more or less stable ones, and we also tried to use that one who like percently for us would be at least 80% possibilities that it's playable. And also there here we come to the third category we are having with this question mark and exclamation mark. It's difficulty, how difficult it is to be performing it. And they're just like two grades of difficulty, as you might imagine, very easy, moderate, and at a bit demanding, let's say. If you go to the, so Georg here selected moderate difficulty, and we have results like directed by the half of the previous one, so we have 8 results. And we can go later, and there's this little text bubbles underneath there. Another thing what we we're thinking to adding is tagging system, and also that's mostly because of the Heather we created and categorized by the tagging. So there will be some diet multiphonics, pure, a bit stubborn, a fuzzy, octave, and extreme, and vibrating. So because of every multiphonic has its different characteristic, we also tried to put that so it would somehow simplify the selection or make it more intuitive. If you don't, of course, these words are not very, they're intuitively more or less understandable, but there is, when Georg before pressed on this icon, information icon on the right top corner, there is a list. Could you please click on the information, right? So here we have a characteristic of these tagging systems, tagged explanation. So diet would be a soft closed diet multiphonic with 2 prominent pitches, no more than an octave between them. So, or if you would have the glissando, it will be these multiphonics are capable of upward glissandi. So this probably also could be helping. And you can make yourself similar to the tagging description. And so as we see, we have it now after which one? Fragile is this case. Georg selected fragile, so the pitches of this multiphonic don't stay constant. It means they're like a little bit flickery. So then after doing all the selections, you would go further by pressing go. And here we have our results. So result cards, it's something we're thinking about. Every multiphonic has an index number, a fingering, diagram, a notation, a dynamics where it is possible, and this the ranking of the difficulty, and of course characteristics. Every multiphonic has multiple characteristics, or most of them. So here we go. And what happens if you have a context? You're writing a score in notation and a MaxScore after adding some probably microtonal dance material, and then you would need that clarinet would play the multiphonic. You have probably also it's a margin edit, and then if you would click on it, you also have to have a preview of the sound. So the sounds are recorded samples of Heather playing on the system. You can also hear them. A remark on it, as you see in the result cards, there are some quarter tones indications, but by the pitch selection, it's not really done that way because we were thinking of the design mostly, and so yeah. Then if you would press on add, let's say go 90s, or yeah. So you have here also the a little bit graphics are moved a bit. We're still polishing it. And could you add the one before? So you see, right? And then you have the notation and fingering diagram, and also I think it also depends on which right, which length did you select before? I mean, by default, it's a quarter, I think. So you would have to go back to the most, yeah. I'm not sure why it's showing a bit different pitches.
I think it does what it's supposed to do, don't you think
Yeah.
so?
Right. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. Just
So
so the idea was that
the graphics, right?
So the correct notation would be that the stems goes down, and that's why it calculates the distance between fingering and the stem.
Right, and you can always go ahead and just select these and just move them
manually.
Down so manually. So if you feel that they're overlapping with the stem, then just move them up a little bit, you know, to get the fingerings out of the way.
Yeah. I'm a little bit wondering because the pitch is not exactly filtered out, but then we need to figure out. But right, I mean, that's about this little tool which extends an entry possibilities by giving also, first of all, the playback possibility. Then it's.
I think Agarim, if I may chime in here, I think the confusing part is that the notation only shows the two strongest, partials. But as you mentioned before, microphonic can also contain a C as a third strongest or a fourth strongest partial, and that's also probably in the database. But we need to check that, of course, first with James to make sure that it's working properly.
Right. So yeah, the code is I think in JS, and we are constantly improving it. But like the most important idea behind this is to create a tool which is extendable to these more complicated graphically attached notations. And probably we were thinking of adding all the spectrum and also an analysis of the spectrogram, but then for the time being and the duration of our little research, it was for now for that time best solution to have it like reduced pitches with just two tones, and to see it's if it's how it's gonna perform. And at the end also we produced there was a piece. So as I said, there are like some amount of multiphonic for the bass clarinet, and then I wanted to see how it's working in a real time, if all multiphonics working, and then I created composed a piece for ensemble and bass clarinet, where the bass clarinet part was consisting only of the some specific multiphonics. So I just excluded like stubborn, buzz, and all the everything. So it's like a piece consisting of around 82 multiphonics, and bass clarinet is just playing this multiphonics from our database. And it turned out very good. It was all playable, and the piece is called Quixotic. So, like poetically translated, the bass clarinet is as Don Quixote in a romanticized like a constellation against the humanity, or like a realist, just keeps playing his all the indexed multiphonics on the bass clarinet and nothing else. He just literally all the piece just plays those bass clarinet multiphonics. So it was a piece of the proof of concept piece. So yeah, and this worked. So the results were quite satisfying.
So that's he's fighting the windmills of
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Thanks, Graham, for the little introduction. And you can see, while these pitches notated here look like equal tempered pitches, but in reality they aren't. Let me check very quick. Because what's being played is something that we wouldn't be just using a regular instrument for. We need a specialized instrument, a sample bank, which is capable of reproducing these multiphonics. Maybe you can say a word about that. We had to build a specialized bank containing all the multiphonics for playback, and I'm not talking about previewing these multiphonics when you click on them. Once you have a score, you need to also play those multiphonics back, and they don't adhere to the logic of MIDI sense, right, or of a regular instrument. So can you maybe say a few words about how we solved that problem?
Yeah, so we started with attaching, because there is the question of mapping. We had a bunch of this library, SQL library with all the samples recorded for the multiphonics, and then first we're thinking of attaching it to the MIDI, like 128, 27, 0 to 127, but then this idea was we didn't use it because it doesn't make so much sense, and it doesn't have to do with the numbering, so it's just like for mapping, and we came up with this 522, right, Georg? Mapping for like, which is for the microtonal attachments. So it's say every multiphonic has its own area. It's going to be triggered. So we have this database, and also it is possible to, I mean, the idea, if you have the instrument there and you have some context before it, and then the multiphonic comes up and it needs to be played, it also in the MaxScore situation, it is possible also to, yeah. So the real playback also can work this way. You just have to select the instrument there. As you see, there's like, you have to select the bank and the instrument that says there's like MaxScore, make note, bank, index 1, clarinet multiphonic. There's like a drop down menu, and then you would choose a clarinet multiphonic instrument from that bank, and then you have here for now like only 2. And there's they're responsible for every note for every for keynote kind of keynote. And then when you play the whole score, then it will be also possible to listen to it, which is also at some point can be helpful.
Yeah, let's play these 2 measures. Made the notes spaced wider apart. And that's enabled by this special bank called Chords Nest Multiphonics, which can then be mixed with other instruments, which is very useful if you don't want if you not exclusively want the clarinetist to play these the multiphonics, but you also want the clarinetist to play regular notes. And that's possible by switching instruments on the fly, right? But that's something that probably would take a little more time to explain. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. If you want to stay with us, you're more than welcome to do. I think we're going to go for maybe another 45 minutes at the most, maybe a little less, depends on how much how attentive people are. But I think the next thing that we want to do is I'm gonna look at my document here. Is the next thing that I want to do is talk about staff styles in the MaxScore editor. Unless, maybe there are some questions from the audience about our Multiphonics editor. Anyone, any questions? Now it's the time to ask.
No, there are answers, sorry.
Okay, then we'll just continue. And yeah?
No, go into Russian.
Agree?
No, I just say I would love to stay, but I would switch off my camera so you can have the all spot for you.
No, don't worry about it. Okay, so I think for this, we'll just go back to, I'm going to close the Multiphonics editor here, and we're going to go back to our Scala browser. First of all, I'd like to introduce the concept of resolution. So I'm going to, once more, I think in this case, I probably should switch the bank again, because otherwise we'll hear multiphonics instead of microtonal pitches. So I'm going to go back to my bells, and I'm going to pick the bells from the media folder, and this time I'm going to use the other bell, which is a little dry, more dry than the other one that we've been listening to before. So once again, did I accidentally close the input, the entry tool? Then I'll just have to open it again. Here we go. We'll do the same thing where enter Manfred's name, perform a search, and enter music. Okay. As you can see here, currently in the score, we have a resolution of the quarter-tone resolution. While in the Scala browser itself, you see everything represented by eighth tones. Let me, in the main score, switch to eighth tone resolution. For this, I press Shift-2, and I can now access this page, which lets me set the grid to 48-tone equal temperament. So now we see all the arrows, so we get a better representation here. We could probably choose the harmonic equivalent for that. And here as well, by pressing E, that gives me the harmonic equivalent. You also have in a pitch utility pane, you also have the possibility to just press here these buttons for enharmonic spelling. Now, there's other resolutions. For instance, I can now apply three different grids for 17-tone equal temperament. That's, once again, these grids are just for representation, not for bending pitches. The pitches will still have the same pitch, even if we're changing the resolution. So I can use the resolution that Manfred uses has used in the past for his compositions, or we can use the one that with a Vishnegradsky notation here. You see these are accidentals that Vishnegradsky has introduced in his work, and I have enriched those by a set of accidentals that I took from Xenakis's works. microtonal works. Right. So, and then I also went crazy with a 96 tone equal temperament with the 96 tone grid as a proof of concept. But I have to say that I'm not such a fan of this sagittal notation. Quite frankly, we can have a long discussion about sagittal notation, but I find this extremely difficult to learn, and therefore I'm a little hesitant to actually recommend the 96 tone grid for music for microtonal representation. I think the most widespread solution is eighth tone representation or approximation, also used in most of the works by the spectralist composers. Okay, now I'm gonna get rid of this again, and I'm going to perform another search. This time I'm not going to look in the comment section, but rather in the name section. I'm going to look for Bolin. And I know that there are very few scales that have 12 steps per just 12th. I'm going to enter 13 because we'll probably find more scales that match this criterion. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick, let me just pick this one here, just for the fun of it. And so what I need to do here, also change the starting range. There's a convention for the Hajdu notation that we start on the D below middle C. We also have a large paper in a book that was edited by Manfred Stanke, elaborating the approach to our approach to Bolin Pierce. We have established in Bolin Pierce music theory quite extensive, elaboration that goes into areas like circle of Bolin Pierce tens and how key areas are related to each other, a Bolin Pierce counterpoint, and also some interesting discoveries that we went on along the way. This is all documented in this book, and you can also find that on my website under articles, at least not the entire book, but the article, and it's a paper called Starting Over Chances Afforded by a New Scale. And so you will see there's quite a bit of stuff in here. And I'm most proud about the color coding of harmonic relationships. Here are alternative notations for the same music. And here we have color coding for the intervals of the Bolin Pierce scale. And you will see the darker the intervals, the more complex they are. And this actually then beautifully translates into an analog of the circle of fifths that also exists in the Bolin Pierce world. This analog is called the Bolin Pierce circle of tenths. And I have to just point out that in the Bolin Pierce world, intervals are zero-based. That is, we're not talking about a prime, or the unison wouldn't be a prime, but it would be a zero interval, which makes it much more easy to calculate intervals and the space between them. We have tried to quote unquote correct some of the issues of the Guidonian notation in the Bolin Pierce notation we came up with. It's a chromatic notation with no accidentals. And that's, I think, also one of the weaknesses of the original notation by Bohlen himself, which was also adopted by Manuel Optecool. And we are proposing a different approach that has no spaces between the lines. These no accidentals. These pitches here represent the Bohlen-Pierce steps, and are therefore much more easily conceptualized than the Bohlen, the notation that Bohlen and Pierce and Manuel Optecool proposed. And also one of the problems of Guidonian notation and the labeling of intervals was circumvented by labeling the unison a 0th interval, and the first interval is actually then the interval between the first scale degree and the second scale degree. So there are a few things that are quite different in the Bohlen-Pierce world, but it makes much more sense, and you don't deal with intervals of different sizes when you define step sizes in the diatonic or the chromatic versions of the scale. That's more consistent. Now, let me enter these. So this is one of the versions of the scale. I don't know which one it is exactly, but it's not the standard one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to now apply the Müller-Hajdu notation to that, and so I'm going to pick another style. I'm going to pick here in this section you find a bunch of how should I put it, aliases, so-called predefined scales that pertain to a particular style, staff style editor. This goes too far. You just have to believe me. And so I'm just going to pick the T clef, and as you can see now, this has been the Bohlen-Pierce, the Müller-Hajdu notation for the Bohlen-Pierce scale has been applied to the pitch set that we just entered, and we can also play this back. We can create a new staff, add staff, and when we copy these notes, there you will see that they're now in equal temperament. So we immediately adjust after copying these the pitch set of the Bohlen-Pierce T clef. We copy that to a regular staff, then the notation will be adjusted. I don't think any music notation program a commercial program is capable of doing that. Then here we have another relatively powerful tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add yet another staff. And I'm going to take this portion and I'm going to change the third staff to Bohlen-Pierce. The fingering notation for the alto kalimba, which was tuned, we used that for at least a couple of pieces, and so I used tuned the tines of the alto kalimba to the Bohlen-Pierce scale. So if I pick these pitches here, which match the range of the Bohlen-Pierce alto kalimba, and I copy that, then wait a second. Oh, that's the wrong. Sorry. That was the wrong staff. I have to pick the third one. And now you see, you have the alternating notation. You have a percussion clef now. Here should revert back to since I made a mistake, now it's correct again. But you see, yeah, on the kalimba, the lowest pitch is the one in the middle, and then you have alternating tines, which represent the ascending scale. So if I click on these notes here, and I also need to set that to bell. If you click on these notes, oops. Okay, once again, let's try that again. Yeah, here we go. So you see, despite the fact that these notes look like they're jumping around, they just represent the physical arrangement of these tiles, so that can be very easily learned by the person playing the kalimba. But the notes, the pitches that are behind that are still in sequence, representing the scale. So that's how this works. Now, the next thing that I want to show you is the tablature tool, which is also very useful in case you ever want to compose in for instruments that are not capable of reading the Bullen-Pierce scale or any other notation standard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add yet another staff. And I will select the tablature tool here, and we'll get the 10-string 41-tone guitar, which is an instrument that was built for a Dutch guitarist. His name is escaping me right now, but it'll come back to me. Melle Weiters, his name is, and he plays this crazy instrument. And as it happens, a 41-tone equal temperament and the Bullen-Pierce scale are related to each other. As a matter of fact, every fifth pitch in the 40-tone equal temperament actually corresponds to a Bullen-Pierce scale step. So that's also makes for beautiful pivoting possibilities between the octave-based world and the Bullen-Pierce world. So now I have set this to tablature and to the 10-string 41-tone. And you already see every line represents a string now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy these pitches here, and I will copy that in the, I'm sorry about that. We just had another of these crashes. And I noticed, unfortunately, that this happens more frequently when I use MaxScore and Zoom at the same time. So for some reason, Zoom introduces an instability, which we just have to navigate, and we'll just reopening the patcher, and so then we'll just continue where we left off. There's also, our music wouldn't be lost. We can be easily recovered if we work on something. It's all cached, and we can access the cache in case that ever happens to us. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply write some pitches and add the new staff. And I'm going to now set this to, once again, to tablature, pick the 10-string 41-tone guitar, go back and copy this in here, And as you can see now, the tablature was written according to the frets on particular strings. Now, when I composed for this guitar or another guitar, which I own myself, the 9-string Boll and Pierce guitar, 9 strings or 10 strings are quite difficult to navigate for guitarists conceptually. So therefore, the guitarist then asked me, or could you maybe just create a tool that would enable me or enable you to put the string number on top as a circle, which is something that's quite widespread in the guitar world. And so this is what I did by creating a plugin, and in MaxScore, plugins are called scorpions. So I created a scorpion that is capable of putting the string number on top of each note, and I'm going to quickly demonstrate that. It's called the add string to add string index to tablature tool. And so basically I can just click on that, and here we go. And so this tool can sense the microtonal tuning. So every string has a microtonal deviation from equal temperament. This we can also verify by going back to the pitch utility, and you can see here, oh, it's very small. It's even too small for me. But when you look at this, you can actually use this as a tuning device for the instruments. So I'm going to turn audio on again. And change this to Zoom audio device. And I can just press these buttons. The lowest one. So these are the pitches for the 10 strings, and it makes it easy for the instrumentalist to tune his guitar to the Boll and Pierce world. Okay, then let's continue with the other chapters. So I think I'm going to skip the clef designer. We went through the fingering notation, tablature, clef designer. Next thing is, and I'm finally going to answer Manfred's request or fulfill his request by showing you the Ableton Live when its implementation of MaxScore, which we adequately call LiveScore. So I have already opened Ableton, and I would like to show you something very quick, which is in Ableton. A quick question to all of you. Have you ever worked with Ableton Live?
No.
No one.
Okay, not much.
Have you also used the new tuning capabilities?
No, when I used it, I wasn't doing any kind of tuning. So it was a module in my undergraduate degree, so I didn't do very much with it.
Okay, so you haven't used that then, if I understood correctly. Okay, then I will quickly show you what you can do in Ableton in terms of tunings. So I'm going to create a new live set here. And the next thing is I'm going to create a new live clip containing stuff. like that. 4 notes. I can now go ahead and visualize these 4 notes. It's a pain to work with, piano rolls. It's really complicated. Particularly if you're a trained musician, reading a piano roll is an absolute headache. So it's much easier to work with these clips if you can see their representation in music notation. So that's where the LiveScore viewer comes in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here to the user library. We're going to go to LiveScore, double click on that, and we'll find the viewer in here as one of the assets. And so here we see those 4 pitches that I just entered. These pitches now can be interactively changed, so I can transpose them by using keystrokes, or I can half their durations once again and create little loops. So I have a notation editor in Live, which enables me to quickly enter music and modify it. The next thing that I could do is I'm just going to drop an instrument here. Why don't I grab one from the sampler? Childhood home piano, that sounds great. So I'm adding that. Now I can just simply play back what's written. I have to enable right. So this is how it sounds. So what we want to do now is we want to apply a tuning to this. So there are several ways to do that. We can actually just apply 12 tone-based tunings, non-equal tempered tunings with 12 steps. That's always the easiest because we don't have to perform any mapping. The range stays the same. So for this, I'm going to go here to tunings, and I'm just going to grab one of these here. Well, let's get this one. All I need to do is I need to drop this tuning here, and obviously that changed the mapping. Let me see whether that's. It can also go back to the original, but dragging that on top of that, and that gets me back the original grid. And so this one, Bayati, is a 12 tuning in 12 steps. So it's not quite as radical as what we did before. These are just slight deviations from temperament, and this whole thing would sound like that now. It's not very radical. Maybe we can find something else that sounds more auto-tune. Let's try this. Okay. I'm actually surprised it's not more auto-tune. Let me try something else, like another one. I think we're dealing with a playback device that's not capable of doing microtones. I apologize for that. But the idea is always the same. You apply one of the microtones here, the tunings, and that changes the pitch set accordingly. Here you see microtones. So okay, let me try that. Does it come through? Okay, to some extent. Maybe I also need to enable a feature. This is a new download. I might have to. Aha, this is what. Okay, this little check mark was enabled for some funny reason. If I enable it, you will see, see the what I was trying to demonstrate all along. Okay, here we go. And so this actually performs mapping, and this is exactly what we want in this particular case. So now we have changed the interval content, so this will now sound like that. So now if we go here to 41 tone equal temperament, for instance, now we have to confirm that, then it'll sound like that. Now you see one of the issues that we encounter, because this is now outside of the playable range. If we have scales with more than 12 or 24 steps, the number of available MIDI pitches will be much less. So let me see what happens if I transpose this up an octave. Inside the playable range, and for each scale, the range can also be set manually, but that would be something that we could look at in a different workshop. So now I would love to show you how to translate a MaxScore, microtonal MaxScore document into a Ableton Live set. And I already showed you the this piece by Easley Blackwood. But before I proceed, I would love to now it's time to show Manfred how to.
Oh, danke. Das kleine Glissando. Ja.
So for this, I'm going to go here to this one. I think it's called LiveScore Note Expressions. That's a set which performs the glissando, if I'm not mistaken. Wait, cancel. Got to do this again. Don't save. So here I have a score, and here we have the glissandi, but not only glissandi, but also a crescendi, which could be also performed on a single tone. So all I need to do is now I need to start the score by pressing this button here. So I think you've heard that. We can also quickly see how this is being done in terms of instruments. So we have a master score here in the first track, and we have two playback devices in the other two tracks. Here's one that's called Cruiser Strings, and this one is called Der Anästhesist. And so for each voice, you need a hub which translates the score into note commands, messages that are being executed. And in this case, we circumvent the range problem of live, let's say the native tuning capabilities of live, which are always limited to 178 pitches per set. In this particular case, when we use MaxScores or LiveScores, native or built-in playback capabilities, we no longer rely on mapping, but we perform pitch bending on each individual note, which gives us, of course, much more a much greater range, and we also found a way to deal with overlapping pitches that are smaller than, or that belong to an interval smaller than a semitone, which is also something that Ableton, with their own approach, had great difficulties dealing with. So understand that tuning is something that they still need to work on a little more.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Question. Did you, are you the central person in this group? You are talking of we. Who is we? Programming MaxScore. Who is we?
Well, I mean, for instance, people like James or Igrim.
Ah, really? In Hamburg?
They all kind of, and other people have helped over the years. Yeah, sure. But I guess where I would say I'm the main developer.
Yeah. Debugger. Yeah, you are collecting and debug. Okay.
Yes. And so here we let me show you the logic of this. Like, or let's open the editor. So we have an editor, and so every editor contains like on page 2 a column called live track. So this is the track that the score talks to, right? So that needs to be given, and so the in this particular case, the first staff talks to track 2, and the second staff talks to track 3. And these are the tracks where the playback devices are inserted. And in order to translate the commands coming out from MaxScore, from the MaxScore editor, we need a MaxScore hub, which then can talk to a regular Ableton Live playback device, an MPE-enabled playback device, that is, because otherwise that's not going to work. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, the next thing is, if I go back to my master score, you will also see something else, which is you can actually assign a staff to a live clip. And so I quickly want to show you the 2 versions of the Blackwood 23 tones or notes which we realized in Ableton. One is called Blackwood 23 Notes Wavetable. And here you have a score. This is the Blackwood score. And here are the different playback tracks for each with a different timbre for the playback. So if I start the score, you will hear the playback. Wait. So this is the realization that uses a score, and in this score now talks to these different tracks, to 13 tracks, and each track contains a playback device. So the score is still something that sits outside of the live set, and the communication is via the LiveScore hub, which enables playback. But there's also the possibility of entering music directly into these clips here, into the clips matrix, in which case every slot contains a separate voice. And if you set 23 tone as a tuning, let me see whether I can find that, because I added that. Yeah, I know where it is. It's a user library. And here you have just basically a Scala file, which I took from the Scala archive. That's just part of the archive. And I'm going to drop that file here on the tuning pane. And now the entire system is tuned to 23 tone equal temperament. Now what I could do is I could create a bunch of clips here. And I'm going to go back to my score. And I'm going to go to the staff view, which is page 2. And if I click here, I can update the existing live clips, and I can see them displayed now as part of the menu. So I can assign each track to another, to each staff to another clip. I can do this repeatedly. As you can see, the coloring scheme has been retained, and these clips can now contain, if I press here on, I go and press select update live clips, which means that the content of the live score document is being moved or copied into each particular individual clip. And so to demonstrate this, I have another version of the piece, and it's called Blackwood 23 Tones Live, where the entire score no longer sits in LiveScore, but it's now part of the live set itself, where every track has been tuned to 23 tone equal temperament. So instead of a master score, I now have a bunch of individual tracks, which all with their own notation. And this is these lines are now fully integrated. I can also, hold on. Here you see there's a little scroll bar, and so you can scroll through the entire part. And we can turn playback on. We no longer need a master score. Everything now obeys the logic of Ableton, and the music has been fully integrated into an Ableton set. So I'm going to stop here. Let me see whether there's still stuff that I want to talk about. Well, basically, there's still stuff left to talk about, but I have the feeling that we've covered a lot of ground now, and maybe we can also start talking about your impressions, and I can also respond to requests. If you want me to show you something specific, then I'm more than happy to do that. So I'm like to open up the workshop, and I would like to start in the Q&A session.
Thank you very much for this impressive presentation of the MaxScore.
Thank you to the whole family.
Apparently, you have a family of inventors.
The whole family, your daughter too. Yeah.
It's a little difficult to understand what you're saying because you don't have a microphone, and some of you have a little farther away from the computer that runs Zoom on it. So if you have a particular request,
Yes.
I would like you to sit a little closer to the computer and speak into the microphone so that I can more clearly hear you.
Yes. You are experts, I think. Well, no question. Yeah, but please come.
Thank you. That was brilliant. It was really interesting. I'm assuming it's possible.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume it's possible, but so how would it respond to multiple different time signatures at the same time, or perhaps even different tempo in different instruments at the same time? I'm assuming that's possible. It seems to be quite freeing. Or maybe you could just speak a little bit more about that, and then also maybe different tuning systems at the same time on different instruments, if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah. So let me talk about different time signatures. That's something that's still being worked on.
Okay.
Enable that. A polymeter would have to, create it maybe a little differently. Currently, it's not possible to have different time signatures for measures within, within the same measure, but on different staves. So if you want something like that, then I suggest you use another mode called proportional notation, where you do away with the bar lines altogether, and then you can enable playback that's not necessarily measured. So, for instance, if I could represent this, what I'm doing here, what I just wrote here in terms of, in terms of proportional notation, it would look like that. Yeah, you still maintain the staff styles, but you see now we have everything annotated in terms of duration, but no longer in terms of beats and measures. So that's something that could be implemented, but polymeter is not one of the strengths of MaxScore.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and but using different tuning systems at the same time is not a problem at all. So I'll just add a staff here. Okay, let's go to our entry tool here. Why don't I go to so let's enter something in 23 tone equal temperament here in this staff. And in this staff, I'll enter something in, you name it. You tell me what tuning would you like?
17 video.
17. Okay, excellent. So now you have 17 tone equal temperament in the bottom staff. So that's and if you want to listen to that, let's do this again here. Bank file, open, bells, and pick that for 23 for bell 1 and 17 for bell 2. I can play this back and you'll see. Maybe this would be nice if we could do this here. We have the iterations for this scale. Now what we can do is I can just copy this and use a command called paste free flow, which then corrects for the gaps. So now we have a poly tuning. We enable poly. Wait. One is a little louder than the other. Let's see, I can put this all the way to the right and this all the way to the left. Let's see how this sounds now. Wait, let me listen to just one line. Not hearing much. Let me okay, of course. Let's try that again. Okay, and the other one, the other track would sound like that. Yeah. Maybe also with the same timbre. The other. Wait, enable that again. Yeah. Now it's doing what it's supposed to do. Okay. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Then I will, if there are, yeah, someone wanted to ask something.
Yeah, but this is a question that has nothing to do with I would like to know a bit more from your music, because if it's possible, it's not part of the workshop, I'm afraid, but you mentioned in the beginning about because I'm a singer and choir conductor, you said you recently finished a new work for choir, is that right?
Yes. Yep.
And it has already been performed?
Yeah.
Great. And how did you manage to teach the choir to sing the specific intervals?
Okay, so so it's a very nice question. I'm going to show you a video very quick. So let's stop at 4:30 because you also have to go to the performance of the piece of the Galan Trio tonight, and I wish you good luck, and for Manfred, who I understand has a premiere of a new piece. So I'm very sorry that I can't be there, but I'd love to hear it one day. And so I'm going to show you this composition of mine called Solaris, based on Stanislas Lem's book, Solaris. And so here we have a section in which
auf Einsamkeit, auf Kampf.
The choir performs in the Bowl and Pierce scale and sings in the Bowl and Pierce scale. So I'm going to scroll a little bit because we have a narrator who talks over the performance. Wait, that's too much.
Ich. Hier. Aber die Vergegenwärtigung einer simultanen Vielheit von Prozessen, selbst wenn sie miteinander zusammenhängen, selbst wenn sie einander bedingen, das geht über menschliche Möglichkeiten hinaus. Tschüss.
So now you see the choir in the background. Singing a sonification of the cosmic web bent to the volunteer scale. And so what's happening here is the following. They all are holding iPads. They're reading the music from the iPads in proportional rotation. So this is what we've seen before. I'm going to just let it run while I go back to my program here. And here we have, what I did is I was using a little device, playback device. I'm going to show you. Here it says playback, MaxScore, playback, and we have a device called MaxScore.tone.js. Wait. Okay, this is interesting. I can let me quickly check this. I haven't opened this in a long time, so I'm not sure why it's not finding the resource. I guess I will have to that can fix that quickly. But basically, what it comes down to, I have a playback device that looks like this here, that's capable of talking to to iPads. So instead of performing the playback on the computer, it performs the microtonal playback on the iPad, like remotely over the network. So I'm sending sounds to the. Oops, I think I have to stop the playback of this here. Instead of playing back the sounds of the score on the computer through the loudspeakers on the computer, I'm playing the sound over the network on the iPads, and every singer has a little earphone.
Okay.
And so what they get is the beginning of the note, so they can tune to the note, and the note is sent about a half a second before their entry. So they have the pitch in their ear half a second before they actually need to sing the pitch.
Okay.
That's how they can represent the scale.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
what I wanted to know. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So, any more questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and hope to see you one day in person.
Yes, and we would like to see you once at Salzburg again and live. And many thanks to you and to your family and to your daughter. And
thank you.
It was quite interesting, but I believe I'm too old to learn this again. but I got to know that there are many things that are possible to do, and we will try. That's it. That's it.
Of course.
We'll try all the things and many informations. And I think the other experts here, they did like your lecture. And thank you for the whole work you have done. And thank you for a wonderful explication of all. And
my pleasure.
I hope. And we hope to see you on the next symposium, Salzburg. Small is beautiful here in Salzburg, and we will meet again.
Definitely, and have a nice closing day tomorrow. A nice performance tonight. Congratulations again, the beautiful symposium, and I keep my fingers crossed that you can keep it running.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.